Last time we talked, we focused on the sustainability work, but now we have to talk about the war. And, we've done a bunch of stuff about, Gaza. And I kind of wanted to talk to you about the impact of the war in the West Bank and what people, both, in terms of repression, in terms of deaths, but also in terms of further limitations on your Palestinians' ability to speak out or go play, freedom of movement, freedom of speech, that kind of stuff. So can we just start? I mean, I know there's been a pretty big increase in deaths, both by soldiers and settlers. Can you just describe a little bit what it's been like there in terms of the violence since October 7th?
Well, I mean, I talk to people from Gaza, either inside Gaza or outside, who left Gaza, managed to get out regularly, and it's pretty undescribable, even words. I mean, there are millions of people, 2.3 million to be precise, who are starving and who are not drinking enough water. And the images I got is like the skeletons that we saw in Auschwitz or some of the concentration camps of Germany. And this has been ongoing now for 5 months. So people are really to the last breath in some cases, and in others, they have already expired. Dozens of children have died of malnutrition and lack of water. This is U.S.-sponsored genocide, and it's ongoing, and nobody is stopping it. And there's no ceasefire. The Israelis are still rampaging bombings, and when they go into Gaza, there's occasional fighting with the resistance forces in Gaza, but most of the time there's just mass slaughter of civilians. Hundreds of people are killed or die of malnutrition and lack of water and food and things like that.
Yes, and it's horrific. And I want to know what the impact has been where you live in the West Bank. If you could talk a little about that in terms of the violence since October 7th, and then I want to talk about some of the other.
Well, the West Bank is in lockdown, basically.
Oh, I'm sorry. Start over, because I was still talking. Go ahead. Start over.
The West Bank is basically a bunch of Bantustans or ghettos or concentration camps. Since 7 October 2023, for the past 5+ months, we've been cooped up in these concentration areas, and roads are blocked. Israel allows settlers to rampage in the West Bank, killing a lot of Palestinians, both by settlers and soldiers. I think it's like 80 children so far have been killed, and demolishing homes. 22 communities have been ethnically cleansed in the West Bank. So the situation is horrible also in the West Bank, not just in Gaza, but at least we don't have mass starvation in the West Bank like is happening in Gaza. Even though the Palestinian Central Bureau of Statistics just came up with numbers in terms of the disastrous state of the economy here in the West Bank. In total, between the West Bank and Gaza, in the first 4 months of this conflict, this most recent conflict, Palestinian economy lost $2.3 billion. Most people are unemployed and cannot provide for their families as in the West Bank because 150,000 used to work in Israel, another 150,000 used to work in the tourism industry, all of this is shut down. In Gaza, of course, everything is shut down. So there's the only employment left in Gaza is few healthcare workers who have not been killed, or the civil defense, first responders who have not been killed. And 20% of those have been killed or injured or kidnapped by the Israeli army.
Wait, when you said, did you say most of the first responders have been killed, or 20%?
20%.
Okay.
Either killed or injured, out of commission, or taken by the Israelis, kidnapped by the Israeli military.
Okay. Say a little more about, you said villages had been ethnically cleansed. Say more about that. What does that mean?
Well, the Israeli military took the preoccupation of the world with Gaza and came here in the West Bank and started removing some Palestinians from their homes and lands, kicking them out, destroying their homes. So 22 communities were removed. They were housing more than 3,000 people. They were in the remote areas especially. So they came and destroyed their houses, their tents, their caves, even some Bedouins in caves and tents and houses. They removed them. The South Hebron Hill villagers were removed. Most of them were removed. So that's natural for colonizers, sort of like what the U.S. did with Native Americans.
Right. And was it mostly Bedouins, or that was just some of the people?
Bedouins and villagers, as I said. South Hebron Hills, it's villagers. In the Jordan Valley, it's some.
Can still pretty much post what they want on, if they're against the war or whatever, but that the Palestinian Israelis can't, and there's a lot more repression. So what does it look like in terms of political repression, or being able to go out on the street and, can you go out and oppose the war in Gaza safely?
No, not really. Even those with Israeli citizenship, Jews and non-Jews, are attacked, beaten, jailed for trying to say stop the genocide in Gaza or declare ceasefire. So they have been under tremendous pressure, and many lost their jobs even for posting on Facebook items related to ceasefire or negotiate now or stop the genocide or anything like that.
So what do you think? I mean, there's a lot of, as you know, there's been a lot of uproar in the U.S. And, from my perspective, it seems to be very, weighted on the ceasefire side, on the, Palestinian side. But I guess in terms of policy, people don't have to demonstrate in the streets because they have the political winds at their back in terms of the president and most of the members of Congress. What do you think people in the U.S., what's the best thing that people who want a ceasefire, a permanent ceasefire and justice for Palestinians throughout, the Palestinian territories, what do you think is the best thing that people could be doing?
Well, they need to challenge their politicians. They need to engage in civil disobedience. They need to write to the media. They need to engage in boycott, divestment, sanctions of Israeli products that are in American markets, like dates and stuff like that. They need to write and speak to other people. Mobilize more people. We are millions on the streets, but we need to be hundreds of millions around the world, billion maybe. That could get things changed, and people need to go out and make a lot of noise. Without speaking, without posting on Facebook and Twitters and Instagram and whatever, Telegram, people can do that. It doesn't take too much time to keep posting, keep showing the videos of the genocide that's ongoing in Gaza. I post about 50 messages a day personally. And one of my messages that I send every other day goes out to 55,000 emails. So, but I do post on X or Twitter, I do post on Facebook, I post on other places. And I encourage everybody to keep posting, keep speaking, keep yelling if you want. Politicians, are bribed and blackmailed, and they do what they do to help themselves. We need to do what we can do to help people in Palestine, people in the U.S., people, Israelis, even everybody here. It's not good for anybody. This endless conflict and regional war that the U.S. started by targeting Yemen instead of targeting Israel and stopping the genocide in Gaza. This is not the right way to go.
Yeah, I know. It's been really horrible. As I don't need to tell you, but just in terms of the increase in starvation, deaths by starvation is just really so horrific. One of our Connecticut senators, Chris Murphy, has called for a pause at least, and Blumenthal hasn't. And Rosa DeLauro was just there, and she was making noise about how terrible it all was. But I don't think she's called for a ceasefire yet either. You post. I don't. Is it weekly, or is it just whenever you want to? Or have enough stuff gathered. You post on email. I'm on your. I guess I'm one of those 55,000 people, and I get emails from you regularly that are just full of resources. So if people who get that and we could share them with our friends, follow up and help. That would help us do some of the things that you just said you do. And to kind of spread the word. I have to edit this down to 5.5 minutes, and what you've told me is excellent. I won't have to edit too much, but is there anything else you want to add about where things stand right now, especially focused on what town? Do you live in Beit Sahor, or where do you live? Bethlehem?
Yeah, Bethlehem area.
Okay.
And so now it's a late afternoon, and it's good to talk to you. My final thoughts is the U.S. is being exposed as a hypocritical country, that the government just keeps lying to the people. Everybody in the U.S. should investigate themselves. Every word that the government is telling them should be investigated to find out, if it's truth or not. When Biden says, this thing started October 7 in his State of the Union speech, he was lying. It didn't start October 7. Palestinian children were being killed for 76 years now. Even in 2023, before October 7, dozens of children were killed. Israel had been demolishing homes and had been killing Palestinians long before October 7. And this Warsaw moment, if you want, Warsaw Ghetto Uprising is what happened in October 7. And of course, the response was to level Gaza and kill or injure 5% of Gaza. That's basically 1 in 20 people in Gaza. Imagine if it was the same number in the US. We are talking about 30 million people minimum who would have been killed, and about 50 million who were injured. So no, maybe my calculations are wrong, but the US population, some million. If you take 1/20th of that as injured or killed, you will get millions and millions of people. And this is done with US taxpayers, your taxes, my taxes. I'm a US citizen also. And this is why I get depressed as I pay my taxes that it is going to fund genocide. That's all.